Hey guys, we're live. This is Jeff here with eBay Addicts, and today my guest is the Lone Star Picker, Louie. How you doing today, Louie? You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Louie. I'm out of Austin, Texas. I'm the Lone Star. I'm known as the Lone Star Picker on YouTube. I chose the word "the" in front of it because there was another person with the same name and didn't want any confusion. So I started my YouTube journey a long time after I've been a reseller, and so right now I consider myself a full-time reseller. Been doing it for quite some time.
All right, awesome. And so you said you're located in Texas. How long have you lived in Texas now, and how long have you been reselling?
So I've been reselling probably steady for like the last 20 years. There was a break in between where I did, Jeff, I probably paused for about 3-4 years where I did a corporate job. But right about the time 20 years ago, I was in corporate, and that's actually when I started my, eBay journey. And it was kind of interesting because it was all new and fresh, and technology was really kind of starting to hone up and tighten up with respect to how they, e-com worked. And so I haven't lived in Texas that long. Did you ask me that? What are your questions?
Yeah.
I've only been here 15 years in an Austin, Texas area. I have lived in Texas on and off, but born and raised in California. I moved out of the country for a little while, for about a couple of years. I lived in Europe on and off, and then I moved back to Texas, and now I was living in New York for a little while too. So
really, so you've been around the block.
Yeah,
you were in California. You went to New York. You went to Texas. Went out of the country. You've been everywhere. Yeah, the song of the guy is like, "I've been everywhere." That's you. You've been all over the country, right? Yeah. So you want to tell our guests a little bit about your journey before you became a full-time reseller? You said you used to work in corporate. What other type of careers and what type of positions have you been doing before you became a full-time reseller? Because it doesn't just happen overnight.
No, it doesn't. It's as far as my stint, as I call it, my little stint. And when I moved to New York, I was just finishing up graduate school. I was getting my master's at the time. And I moved there because I had an opportunity with one of the major museums there. It was by the name of the New Museum of Contemporary Art, and it was under the director of Marcia Tucker at the time. And I was able to come in there and work a little bit. I was an intern, and which was a big opportunity because I moved. Like I said, I was doing my graduate school in Texas, and then I thought I want to get out. I want to go and do something new. And I thought part of my art career and my studies as an art historian and my love for knowledge and stuff was going to be like one of the art meccas was New York. But lo and behold, in a year, once you're in New York, it's hard to find a place to live. So in order to sustain that, I had to get a job. And quickly after that, I landed a job in the corporate world. It was for Citicorp Investment Services, which was a division of Citibank. So.
All right. And so how long did you work there when you were at Citibank?
It was in the late 90s, I think it was. I started, and I didn't really want to work there, but, I was good at what I did. I did a lot of data maintenance, and I worked for a department for the investment services, which was not part of the banking system. And I helped them pretty much with compliance. So I was a compliance officer there. We had to do data reporting for NASD and whatnot, and SEC, Security Exchange Commissions, and pretty much how to maintain a legit book and monitor how they audited stuff and making sure we reported, in a timely manner. And while I was doing that, it was just like, how do I balance my lifestyle of wanting to learn, to do things and whatnot? And in order to be in New York, it's expensive. It was hard. So I started on the side hustle. I had that job, and that was good. But it seemed like I was listening to Sam Depp Tiger once talk about to be in a city where it's hard to sustain yourself. You almost have to spend all your money, And I love to go out and eat. I love to go to the arts all the time and whatnot. So what I did was I got a teaching job part-time, but I also started selling on eBay, ironically, just found this item and I went, let me try this on this platform. And it was just starting out in, I think, the late 90s. when people would still write a check or send you a cashier's check.
Yeah, that was
money on paper. It was crazy.
Yeah, that was back in the day when we had that old dial-up internet. You remember that? So,
dude,
guys, if you guys weren't around back then, you couldn't be on the telephone and on the internet at the same time. You know what? If you had a house phone, you would just hear you couldn't even be on the phone. And I'm telling you guys, it would cause fights all the time. If someone needed to make a phone call and someone else on the internet at the same time, it was like a fist fight was about to break out.
All I remember was I had this AOL account, and I figured I was savvy. And you can remember when you had your AOL account, your name was like the way you can, what do they call it? Data chat. You just would type somebody into this data chat, which was like, now it's like completely hackable. You would never do that. It was kind of like, it was like the old code that the military used. And I wrote this girl that, who became the mother of my child. I married her and invited her to live in New York. And I just remember being on AOL, like you said, dialing up with that AOL stuff. And that's where I started looking on eBay. I don't remember why or how, but you're bored, you go, oh, there's this thing called the internet. I'm going to go explore it. And it was still in its infancy stages. I mean, it was around probably 5-10 years, whatever it was. And it was so different then. It was so different. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, it's a different world. I mean, when you look back at the way things were in 1998 compared to 2020, it's like a different world sometimes. I mean, just with everything, with like an app where you can just have food delivered, have Amazon or eBay deliver stuff to your door, be able to just press a button, have DoorDash or Uber come pick you up and take you to the airport. It's just totally different. So I'm going to try to catch up with some questions in the chat. Prison to Profit. He said, "What are some of your main sourcing places?" American Made said, "Nice hat." Where are some of the places you like to go sourcing at?
That I like to?
Yeah.
I've had to adapt a lot since, we'll call it the Rona thing going on now. And I've learned up my scale. So talking about AOL dial-up and stuff like that. I actually used to source on eBay back in the day when it first started. And so I still have that tradition in my head where I'll go online, but I am like right now where if I have a car and I can go to it and I can make a connection, and I'm about networking. If I can get a private pick, I will do it. And because of the coronavirus, there was an example. I was able to see a message on there, and it was on I think it was on Facebook Marketplace or in whatever it was. It was like Craigslist. And I typed the lady, and the lady goes, "The first person that emails me will get the first appointment. We're going to do things a little different here. It's because of that, and you're going to wear a mask, and we're going to keep everybody safe." And I went, and I wrote her back and says, "Is this a moving sale or is it an estate sale?" She's like, "It's a moving sale, but I don't want to have too many people here." And I said, "Well, what's your first appointment?" She's like, "Earliest Friday, 7 a.m. And I went, "Is that as early as you got?" She's like, "That's the first one." Got in there, So sourcing for me is really, how do you put it? It's integral to the part of if you don't get there and do it right and get in there first and try to find, you're not going to be able to do it. So I like thrift stores. I don't mind garage sales and yard sales, but I have to do logistics. And you drive around in your job, so it's all about getting to point A to point B quick as you can, get in, get out. And if I can do that, that's helpful. But I'll tell you what, one of my main sources as of late is probably be estate sales. Estate sales, I've upped my game. I'll pay more if I know I can flip it for at least, a little more than half. And it's to me, it's a better ROI. The return on investment's very good.
All right, so Louis, I want to ask you a few questions. So I'm trying to get caught up with everything. So you were living in California, you moved to New York, and then how long were you in New York before you decided to move down to Texas? I'm trying to get caught up.
Okay, born in California, finished high school. As soon as it was done, I moved to Texas, and then I moved back to California, and then I went back to Texas to start my it was my graduate degree. I finished my bachelor's in California. It's crazy. It was my dad would move a lot because of work, and so that was not very helpful on us. But when my final stint in Texas was when was probably somewhere in the 90s, where I said, I'm done with graduate school. I want to get out. That's when I went to New York. Is that what you were asking? And then from there, probably about 2005, It was after 2000. It was 2001 when September 11th happened, and my wife and I were not like having it anymore. We said we'll try to stay as long as we can, but when 2002 came around, you're still smelling smoke from in New York City, and things were just really kind of. It was just a different atmosphere, and the anxiety was there, and it kind of stressed us out a lot, and we just didn't know if we were like, do we really want to live this lifestyle? We hung in there maybe like a couple more years, and then we said, let's leave. 2003, 2004, we were like, had our mindset, but it took a long time for us to get out. So we left and we went to Texas, and that's how I ended up in Austin.
Yeah. Simply Dana said, where in Europe did Louis live?
I lived mostly in northern Italy. I had a couple of bases. I stood in Germany for a while with a friend's cousins. And I moved around a lot, I love to explore. I studied art. And actually, I went to a lot of, ironically, like in Italy and Germany and stuff, I would find yard sales, kind of like they had the street sales and stuff. And I always like to find, unique things. And some of them I still have, and some of them I sold, And I've learned to trade things like along the way too. Like, oh, this will have value, and I would trade with somebody on the train to get something I needed, like food or something like that, It was fun.
I just want to catch up some of the people in the chat. Hey, Fundamentals of Side Hustling. Hey, man, I saw you on the channel the other day. I subscribed to your channel. Yeah, and Dave, Tesla Picker, man, I sent you a message on Instagram, bro. Thanks for coming by. I appreciate you. So I just wanted to say hi. We're live, so if you have questions, drop it in the chat. So Louis, I'm kind of curious. So how long were you at your corporate job before you decided to say, hey, I want to become a full-time reseller? Like, how did that transition go when you were like, you were working a corporate job and then you decided to move to Texas? Cause I think you told me off air that you've been in Texas for like 15 years now, I think you said. And
it's been 15 years in Austin, but I've lived here previously, like I said, during graduate school. And there was a short period where I went to school like 1 year. There's a lot of move back and forth, but
all right. But so how did you get into, kind of dipping your toe in and being a part-time reseller to doing it as your full-time gig? And how has that been?
It's been really, to me, it's been like, my sister asked me, she's like, are you happy doing this? And I said, it's not a matter of, being happy, but I said, technically I don't want to work for somebody else now that I've done this, because I left, like I said, New York in 2005. I had enough of corporate, and I was happy to oblige my wife then at the time. She's like, this is, I'm tired of New York, and we wanted to get out, and she was willing to move to Texas. We were considering California again, but the economy there is so expensive, as you know. And we found that Austin was a pretty doable place, and it was actually one of the top 10. But when we got here, it was the opposite of New York. It was harder to get a job. It was easy to find a place. In New York, you can't find a place, and here, it's like kind of a little bit of mix of both. But once I got here, we got jobs on and off. And then about 2 years ago, I ended a corporate job again, where I did it for a while because I got a little burned out on reselling, probably around, I think it was around 2008, 2009. I said, let me see what's going to happen. I got a corporate job and then got out of it again because I said, that was it. And I made a conscious decision 2 years ago. I said, if you do this, you're either doing something really stupid or you're going to do something that's going to save your life. And to me, it was like all about the psychology. It's like, I can be my own boss. I was doing, in the corporate world, which they call project management. And I had it, like working for people and having a team and staff that either just wouldn't help you and support you, and trying to do other people's work for them was like not my cup of tea. Because if you didn't in the corporate world, if you didn't get something done, that was it. There's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm all about having multiple different streams of income, because eBay is great, but you only get paid on commission. So if you don't sell nothing that week or that month, you still got to eat. You still got bills to pay. So I'm with you. I like having multiple different streams of income. So Louis, can you talk a little bit about some of the items that you like to source and what kind of profit margins you're looking for, and how often do you go sourcing and how often do you list items on your store?
I've been starting to only recently, just like making sure I have 1 day a week. I don't mind working 6 days of like sourcing on and off, because to me that's pleasurable. I mean, it's not. I think we all get a little bit of a satisfaction. Some people admit that they're overly like, ecstatic. Like that, the sourcing is the easy part, but there can be stress if like I hear about stories about people not being able to have places to go. Fortunately for me, I know how to source and I know where to go. And I do have one honey hole, like everybody has their like little secret spot. I have a couple spots and I'm starting to make connections. So for me, sourcing is about not just a place you go, but it's also the connections you make. Sometimes I trade with people. So I don't know if you notice, it says the Lone Star Picker and it says buy, sell, and trade. Trade to me is worth more. If you can trade for something you got for $5 and it's worth potentially like 150, whatever it is, and you can trade it up, and I'm saying trade up, you can make a lot more. You know what I'm saying? So in a way, you can source in that fashion. But if you can, like I said, I'm not opposed to driving far away for a yard sale or a garage sale. Last weekend, I think it was, there was a neighborhood sale, 45 houses. I never scored that good in a while. I got like 3 different game systems. I got a Harley jacket, I got like, a plethora of stuff that was like, this is going to keep me going for fourth quarter. So it's really, like you said, I like multiple sources of income, but I got to hustle, So sometimes I have a contracting job, and if that's there, I'll use it as cash flow. I forgot to mention, I do flea markets once in a while, but I do specialty flea markets.
Yeah. Well, we talked off stream. You said you like looking for books. Is there anything else? Can you tell us a little bit about books and what you look for? And let's say like how much you usually pay for the merchandise? Let's say the book is worth $20 on eBay. What would you be willing to pay for that book? Like 50 cents, $1, $5? Like what is your profit margin that you're looking for?
My profit margin, really kind of it's been hunkered down, and I try to keep an aim. My one aim is of course everybody potentially wants to buy the lowest you can, but I have a profit margin where if my threshold isn't at least making over $10, then I won't mess with it. I'm not going to pay $10 for a $20 book, So, but like in general, it depends. Other day, I think the most I paid for was like $4 for a book, which I realized just by opening it. And it's just part of my system. I've been studying books for a long time, and I've gotten a little more savvy. I used to go to book conventions in New York, where book buyers, book collectors, and book sellers. And I would watch the game between the sellers and the collectors, and then I would watch the game between the collectors and and those that were also trying to do it for different reasons. They were like selling it, but it's like it's interesting to see that, because books are they can be long tail, but if you get the right book, I'm telling you, like can I give you an example real quick?
Go ahead. We got time. Go ahead.
So the other day I was in like a thrift store, a brand new thrift store, and if I didn't stop that day, it was like I was dropping my daughter off, and I went, oh, I don't ever remember seeing this thrift store, and I popped in, dead as can be. And I looked around, and most of the merchandise was a little high priced and not anything that I particularly would want to sell. I try to stay away from clothes unless it's vintage. But like when I was going through there, I hopped through and I like media. When I say I like books, I also like media, like videos, books, CDs, because you can ship them cheaper. So that was kind of my theory, is like, I don't have to spend that much. But if I can potentially pay under $5 and make at least a $20, $25 margin on up, that's where you go with it. But when I was in that thrift store, I found this book, and I looked down and I went, I just sold this 2 months ago. And it was, laugh at this, it was a Luby's. Luby's is a cafeteria restaurant. Have you heard of it?
No, go ahead.
It's Luby's Cafeteria. Apparently, I didn't know this till after the fact. When I found it, all I remember was, I don't remember exactly much, but I remember it was like selling close to $100. And I went, oh, how much do you want for this book? And they didn't price it yet. The guy was like, oh, I want $3. I said, give me it. Grabbed it, went home, and then within a week or so, I sold it for, the person was all in, I think it was over $100, like $120 with shipping.
That's awesome. Yeah.
2 weeks later, the price went up to $250. And guess why? Because when I was reading Wall Street Journal, they went out of business. So all of a sudden it became a trend. You see my point? It's like, if I would have known, I would have held on one more week or 2 weeks later. That book to this day has sold for $250. It's like crazy.
Right.
Look at that.
Right, but I'm saying the awesome thing is that you were able to walk in there and just remember off the top of your head, say, hey, I've sold this item before. So you're able to know, hey, this is a good item to grab, and immediately grab it and buy it instead of sitting here scanning all these barcodes because you already had sold it before. That's what I'm saying is awesome, because I'm like that sometimes too. If I'm out looking for a video game or DVDs or whatever, and I'll be like, hey, I just remember I've sold that particular video game, sells for $50. They have it here at the pawn shop for $1, and I'll just go and grab it and check out immediately and then come back and look around.
It's so awesome, isn't it? It's the best feeling too. It's like, why do the extra work? But you know, and it does, you know, the risk of sounding immodest, Jeff. It's like it comes with experience. You know, but I know a lot of young resellers. I'm very young, like in their 20s. They've taught me so much, and it's like, but they also have the knowledge on certain technologies, or like you said, video games or whatever it is. I know a golf guy that, like, I'm always begging him, like, give me a golden nugget, because I'm not a very good golfer, but I have like golf clubs I sell, you know, because you know the potential profit is like a great return on investment, right?
Yeah. Hey, Louis, we got. You want to go ahead and talk about your show? You said you have a show starting on Monday. You want to tell people that's chat a little bit about your show you have coming?
I appreciate that. Thanks. So there's another gentleman by the name of Cali Reseller Luis. He's been around. He's mostly in the auction circuits, and he does do content on his YouTube channel about what he sold and whatnot, but he's been doing a lot of lives too. And he and I have started a partnership. We said, you know, there's one thing in the community we would like to invest in YouTube, and that is, what do we have to contribute? Well, and one thing we found, like, well, one thing would be good for us all to keep, just either bounce off each other. And I'm a firm believer, like, we're always learning. You know, we always have something to learn from each other, but also hopefully we can share what we know, like in terms of, you know, knowledge or experience. It's going to be this Monday, and it's going to be on my channel, and it starts at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time, 4 p.m. if you're on the East Coast, and it's called Monday's Mindful Merchants. So it's on Mondays. It's about the concept, you know, of just methodologies that resellers have in terms of just what is, you know, your mindfulness process of, like, how do you negotiate? What do you do to do this? How have you ever stuck your foot in your mouth, and how do you avoid that? You know, like in a business transaction, you know. So is it going to be a live stream like we're doing now? People can come by and ask questions and hang out. Yes, thank you for asking. It is going to be a live stream. Both of us are going to, like, kind of just try to do like we're doing it now, saying hi to everybody. I see some new people coming in, and yeah, but one other little important factor is we're always going to have a guest. We're going to try to entertain and help the community. But, like, you may have been around, and I'm going to say, hey, what do you have that you can offer us about being mindful, and what aspect of it is that you like to talk about? Because everybody has something to contribute, you know. And mindfulness, I think, is something that can help us. I think it sharpens our skills and just sharpen us, as, you know, as far as resellers. We all go through, like, trials and tribulations. When we get bummed out, well, what do you do to, you know, help yourself? Are you accountable? Do you get up or you stay up a little longer every night to list maybe just 2 more items, whatever it takes, you know. But there's more.
Yeah. Reselling can be a lonely business when you work by yourself and you're self-employed, but also you could get burned out of it too. And that's kind of the thing where it's like, man, I just don't feel like listing items today, but I'm hungry and I still need to eat. So it's kind of like you have to come up with a balance where you don't overwork yourself and get burned out, where you don't feel like working anymore. But at the same time, you have to have a consistency, and you have to have a routine where you can be making a little bit of progress every week. Go ahead, Louis. I'll let you speak to that.
No, just I'm glad you said that, because, like, the one thing I think I'm going to eventually talk about on the show with Luis is, you know, there is that potential. Like, a lot of resellers sometimes are doing it by themselves. They come home or whatever, or they're already home, so they're stuck at home. Who do you have to kind of conversate with this? I think that's why, with all due respect, we see so many of us, like, connect and kind of get it, and we're kind of here for each other, because our spouses, our partners, our family, good friends, you know, that are not in reselling don't really want to hear about what we do, or maybe they just don't care. And that's fair.
They don't really care. You walk up and say, hey, I found this item for $1. I sold it for $50. They're like, all right, well, I'm watching a football game. Like, it's like, I don't really, you know, they don't get it. You know, they're just like, that's not their area. You know, if they came to me and was like, if they came to me and started talking to me about a soccer or a golf game, I'd be like, okay, well, I'm going to get back to listing items. I wouldn't be nothing rude. It would just be like, hey, you know, this soccer game on TV is not going to pay my bills. So, I mean, that's great and all. If you want to talk about soccer, that's great, but that's not my field. So it's kind of the same thing. If I go up to the same Yeah, if I go to the same thing and say, "Hey, man, look at this video game I bought at the pawn shop for $1. I sold it for $50." They're just like, "Okay,
like,
great." Yeah. Talk about it during the commercial break. I'm watching the game. They couldn't care. So yeah, it's nice that you have a.
They pretend to like, and then like, and after like 2 or 3, most 5, they start glazing their eyes. It's like, yeah, or they get on.
Yeah, it goes. Yeah, it goes in one ear and out the other, right? So,
well, here's the thing. Like, for example, if I were on my show, I would ask the guests. I was like, okay, question time. Give me, like if you're to share your interactions, and we all do this with somebody you're close to, be it family, friend, or whatever. How long would you go on and tell them about your day, or whatever, tell them some aspect of reselling. I've learned that if you can just cut the story out and just say, hey, guess what I got? I bought this $2 and I sold it for $500. They're going to be like, let them ask the questions, because and it becomes more endearing. And it really is. That's what our relationships are really about. It's like, I want to share. Do you want to hear? Okay, you ask me, and then I'll go on all day. But
right, but sometimes they're just doing it just to be nice. They couldn't care one way or the other. They're just like, "Oh, that's great. I'm happy for your reselling game," and then that's it. That's the whole thing. And so, like, that's what I was saying earlier. If you work by yourself and you work all day long and you're working, 8-10 hour days, you're listing items, you're shipping out packages, but you're just in an area by yourself, you might feel isolated. So it's good to have a community where you can reach out to people. I have a lot of different resellers that maybe I'll send them an email or I'll send them a message on Instagram, and we can just talk about stuff. Even if I don't have a question, we're just talking. Hey, how you doing? How was your day? How was business? Just to chat. So Louis, can you give people some tips and advice? Because earlier you said you've been selling on eBay since 1999. So if someone is newer on eBay, do you have any tips or advice to help somebody? Give somebody maybe 3 or 4 tips off the top of your head that might help somebody. I mean,
push me out on that limb, Jeff.
Well, I mean, it doesn't have to be in a specific category. Just something that you can think of. Maybe something that would help somebody. Maybe it's listing more items. Maybe it's shipping in a certain amount of time. Maybe if you can come up with 2 or maybe 3 or 4 tips off the top of your head, because we got 21 people in the chat right now.
Okay, so real quick, and I'll try to do it in a nutshell. So like you're saying, so what I do is I try not to ever give advice, but I will give you my best suggestion. Like it's like a horse. You can bring a horse water, but you can't make them drink. But my thing is if you're new and you're really starting this out, don't jump into like people's advice. Like they say, oh, I have a store and this and that. And you kind of like, if you're a person that kind of follows influence, like, oh yeah, I want a store too, and I want to sell at that. Just start out easy. But my main thing is sell what you know. What are you familiar with? Like for me, I don't know. I've always been a book reader, and believe it or not, I'm kind of an introvert, and outside of everything else, living during this pandemic was like, yeah, that's a piece of cake. It's okay. But at least I have like the eBay community. But my best friends are like, you don't want to come out and hang out? I'm like, not during this Rona, But so like they're like, all you care about is doing your thing. I'm like, no, it's not that I care about it. It's like, and one of them was just, he was a newbie too. And I said, how about this? You list at least this many things a day. And he was starting, he's like, oh, I don't even do this good because I'm not selling anything. I'm like, how much effort do you put into it? I mean, this is like, for me, it's a job. For some people, they're like, I hear stories where like, I just kind of do it for fun. It's a part-time job for me. To me, I have to look at it in a whole different way. So my question for anybody, and it's a question, is what is your intentions? Why do you want to sell? And what is it would you really want to sell? And do you think it's worth selling? Just because you like it and they're in this trendy, or even if it's just something you kind of collect, doesn't mean everybody's going to want it, or it doesn't mean it's going to sell good. So I've had to learn that sometimes in order, like when I used to collect and I don't collect anymore, because like to me, nothing's worth that much. I'll sell it in a heartbeat. I'll like, oh, I want this. I like it. Okay, sell it. But I would just say sell what you know. Find something that's going to also be like a multiple source of income, and try to see if you can play off of that. But do take risks, but be educated about it. Like, don't just go buy like a bunch of adult diapers because you got them cheap or free, because you're going to find out those things don't sell, And always ask questions like, if you don't, if you need to, and like that's what I think is. Instagram is a great supplement to like YouTube. If you keep connected with people and you find like-minded people, we want to share information. We really do. Because like we just said, what was the key there a little while ago? We all want to talk. We all want to, so you just talk to a reseller and say, what do you think about that? Boom, boom, and they're going to regurgitate all their ideas, their experiences, their knowledge. And they're just, I think most people are really caring and compassionate. So I would just say, be gentle on yourself. First and foremost, do it with non-critical observation. What am I doing wrong? Take notes. Why did I list like that? If you don't know, ask questions. But start simple and like don't start a store. Use eBay gives you, like, if you're doing eBay, that is only if you're, whether it's Mercari or not, use this, like whatever the bare minimum they give you for free, and just try it. As soon as something sells, list. But I would say once you start going in like full force, you better list no less than like 10 a day. I mean, otherwise you're going to have a store that's going to be the mediocre, and it depends on what, how much you need to like survive, because everybody's margins are different, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, if you're first getting started, it's okay to make mistakes. You're not going to start off being a pro. Nobody, LeBron James didn't start off being, an NBA basketball player. He started off learning the fundamentals, dribbling, passing, shooting free throws. So it's okay if you don't know everything. You can learn. You can learn as you go. And two, I was going to say is you need to have a goals. So if you're like, my goal this year is I want to get 10,000 items listed in my eBay store. So you need to have goals. You can't go in like, it's like if you're swinging at a piñata and you got a blindfold on, you don't know what you're swinging at. So it's like if you're just listing on eBay, but you don't have a goal of how much you want to sell per month or how much money you want to make or how many items you want to list, then what are you doing? If you're just sitting here saying, okay, I listed 10 items, well, what if your goal was 20 items? You need to have a goal. And number three, I was going to say, is try to make connections with people, because you want to reach out and make connections with suppliers. Go ahead, Louis. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No. I'm actually interjecting on you because you said 5 different good points in there. One of it is about goals. To me, I look at goals as a weekly goal, monthly goal, and you better have an annual aim, a goal. But on your daily basis, I wake up every morning and I find an aim. And the aim is, okay, like if you're an archer and you're learning to shoot that bow, what are you trying to do? You're trying to hit the target as clearly and concisely as can be. You're not going to always hit it. Sometimes you're in the 30 mark or the 20 mark. If you're really not good, you're going to be outside the circle. But if you have a daily aim that regiments you, and I use that keyword regiments, because you do have to you have to put in the work. But if you don't put in the work and be sincere about it, like, let me just lay down on the couch for a couple hours. No, ain't gonna cut it. There are times I'm so tired. I don't want to wash dishes. I don't want to fold clothes. I don't want to keep the householder stuff. And then you got to do the work. Like if you're a reseller, you better get on your platform and you better figure out and kind of, articulate in your head, like, okay, I need to do this. And that is your aim. It's like, what is your main aim today? If you set 5 aims in that day, if you get 3 done, that's 3 better than you didn't do. Because I tell you what, if you don't do aims, you're never going to reach your weekly goal. And things are going to get in the way. Things will pile up. Like, for example, he was in here, Derek, Fundamentals of Side Hustling. He was talking about in his last video, you better get your house in order. Like, if you have a disaster of a death pile and you're listing from it and you don't put that stuff away or organize, more importantly, it's about organizational skills. If you don't keep your mindset in a way that where you have a fashion of like, here's my accountability board, I want to keep my stats, but here's my notes. And this is also like my to-do list. And then next to that, you have like priorities. Do your priorities. Get to it. Do your best. But like that's what I meant by like non-critical observation. You don't get to all of them. At least that's why you kept a list. And you have an aim to get to that weekly goal. And the weekly goal is to get to the monthly goal, right? And hopefully by the end of the year, you went, man, I really killed it this year. I did a little more than I did last year. That is kind of what we try to subject ourselves to, is betterment. How can you, like that, what's that guy, Chris, he calls himself daily refinement? How can in every day you refine it, just tweak it, but don't criticize yourself. I think that's where you hurt yourself. Like you said, it's okay to make mistakes, right?
Yeah, everybody's making mistakes. I've had times where I put the wrong shipping label on the wrong box, and I did a switcheroo, and 2 different eBay customers got 2 different products, and they were not happy. They were not going to be repeat customers. I
We
had
all
to go in and give them both refunds and apologize, but just doing everything I could just not to get a negative feedback. And it was an honest mistake. But I'm just talking about. Yeah, just because you have an eBay store and just because you have a YouTube channel doesn't mean you're not going to screw up and make mistakes. I'm just saying it's okay.
I appreciate you mentioning that, because honesty is the integral part of the whole thing. Integral means integrity, you know, kind of like where you're gonna like just be honest and be honest with yourself. You excuse my language. When you F up, you're gonna make a mistake. Scratch it off. Can I tell you something? I did that the other day, and I don't know how I managed it. Maybe because of my project management skills in corporate has helped me. So remember when I told you about 7 years ago, I was like still kind of in the hustle of like doing reselling, and I took a little break thinking I needed to get back into corporate because I wanted insurance for my daughter, and I was a little bit burned out and I didn't want to admit it, but I was like, enough of the reselling thing, you know. And I thought having a check was going to make me happy. No. But when I got back into the game, you know, it was like, you know, it's like, this is where I needed to be my own boss. But like the project management skills brought me to the point where I did that last month, where I sent the wrong thing and it crossed paths, and this guy goes, I didn't ask for this. You sent me the wrong thing. And then another guy went, I said, you know what? The warehouse must have made a mistake. And I don't know how I got those two guys to send it to each other, and they didn't leave me negative feedback.
Yeah, but that happens. I had 2 remotes that I was shipping out, and they were both Sony remotes, and one was a big one, and another one was a little one. Well, somehow or another, you know, when you're printing off the shipping label, it just says Sony remote on it. So, you know,
Yeah.
I guess I didn't look at the SKU numbers properly, and I switched them, and the guy that was supposed to get the big remote got the little one, and the guy that got the little one got the big one. So anyways,
You know what
I ended up having to give both the customers a refund and apologize and say, hey, I'm sorry. They were not happy. They were sending me nasty emails saying, hey, I got the wrong item and I'm not a happy customer. But go ahead. Go ahead, Louis.
No, but like, you're right. They're not going to be happy. Excuse me. They're not going to be happy. And that being said, I was talking on a live the other day, and you could probably go back and find it on my channel. There's this young guy named Mateo, and he's starting out his YouTube journey, but he's been reselling, and he's from California too. And long story short, he was telling me, like, when he didn't up his game psychologically, like where you make a mistake, where you did this cross thing. Well, for him, for like, it's a different example, but my whole thing is when you fall into that thing, don't let them get you down. You're going to have to go, I made a mistake. Just be honest with them. And most times, probably like 6 to 7 times out of 10, most people are kind of like really going to forgive you. There's some hard asses that will like beat you down. And it's because, you know, and I go, you know what? You were so right. And I ask you if you can just forgive me. I want to give this back to you, and you're not going to pay anything on it. Don't worry about it. You know, I just dial it up, and most people are like, okay, just give me my money back. You know, I'm like, okay, you know, there it is. You know, and if I can rectify it, like if I have another one, I always send it to them. You know, but this guy was talking about when you do that, and like you said, I could see it in your face. There's this anxiety as a reseller. We all, you know, our bad parts of reselling, we don't want to talk about this, the dark stuff. And when we do talk about it, it's usually because we're going to vent. And it's like, well, how do, and who want, I don't want to hear from my reseller friends like, this lady was I'm like, it's not that she's a creep. Things happen. You know, it's like, we made mistakes. They're human too. So when, you know, I get a buyer coming back to me and really just aggravated, I don't care if it's my fault or if it's not my fault. I just have to like go, okay, what do we need to do to help you? Doesn't mean she's right, but what can I do to be there? And most of the time, I'm good about calming the kitty down. It's like, just chill out, lady. So this friend, Mateo, he said he was at I think it was like a yard sale, and this lady was just like on him, like, you're not going to get it for this price. And he messed his Zen moment. And that was the whole idea, is like, if you as a reseller fall into a trap where like you're going to go, you're not going to get anywhere. And so like that happened to me the other day, and this lady was like trying to like, you know, this price is what it's going to be, and this is all you're going to be. And I went, okay. I said, can I share something with you? And I get my phone out and I showed her, and I said, it ain't that price. Let me show you something. I slid the phone and I said, here are the sales prices. It's less than half of what you're asking for. I said, no disrespect, I can't buy it at that. I just wanted you to share because the next guy that comes up, I don't want you to get mad at him. I said, you seem like a really nice lady. I would love to do business with you, but I'm going to go walk over there and look at something. But if you change your mind, let me know. She came back. She wanted this one item in this box for $5. No, excuse me, it's $80 for a video game system. And I was like, I'm not paying that. It was like not even 30. And she had like games and games and games. I walked away paying 70 for everything. You know what I mean?
Awesome. So, Louis, can you talk a little bit about making connections with suppliers and be able to make an established, like if you're going to the same place, you want to make an establish a relationship with people in order to get merchandise. Can you talk a little bit about reaching out to people and making connections and establishing relationships with people?
Well, I can talk more because my one guy that I had, he was a really good guy, and he's I can't make the connection anymore because he's like of age. And like he's about to pass away, and you know, it's like he was a really good guy in the sense that he saw like if you were honest and you worked with them, you know, and that's how I built my relationship. And it's really just about that. It's but if you're finding an opportunity, you better have a business card. And if you don't have a business card or just a good strategy of just building a rapport with that person, you're not going to get far and you're not going to make connections, you know. And it's really that's where I learned to talk a lot. And I think some of it, the corporate helped, but also I just found like if you're really sincere with people and tell them what you enjoy and what you like to do, you can come out. And I have made 2 more connections as of late. It's kind of slow and it's hard. Some people are better at it. It's not that I'm not good. It's just like it takes a lot of work and effort, and you better, you know, and there's people out there that are like ready to jump on that like deal. So my question for myself is like, how can you step forward and how can you make some kind of little mutual connection so that person remembers you? I don't have to drop the deal the first time, but if there's an opening, you better believe I'm going to like focus on that. And like a dog on a bone, I'm going to go, you know, like some people are aggressive, like, hey, I want to do business with you. This and the guy's like, no. I already got 10 other sellers waiting in line. You know, my thing is what can I do for you? Always be of service to that person. You may not get in that door and you may not get your foot in that door, but just be helpful. And then don't expect anything. That's really where it comes down to. I think I've made so many connections that way, Jeff. It's like, I do like to help people. I don't like to be taken advantage of, but I will help anybody. If you ask for help, I'm going to be the guy that like, yeah, let me help you. I can't help you all the time. My time is valuable. And so if I make that connection, they say, oh, this guy is really helping me and he wants to because he's sincere, but that guy's got better things to do. People always reciprocate. It's not about a scratch in the back and the scratch in the back, you know, but it is about like, if you make an opportunity work, I think some people are genuine and sincere and they go, you know what? I like the way you do business. Tell me something else that you're interested in. I can't give you this deal, but would you be interested in that over there? And I haven't told anybody, it's new, it's incoming. And they give you opportunities, and you look at the merchandise and you go, yeah. Or you help them and you go, I'll be honest with you. I don't want to lose an opportunity to work with you, and I like it. But you can go, I do know somebody who may use it. Can I, you know, or just sometimes you buy it because you know you got that person covered. So it's a connection within a connection, and then sometimes you just make those more, you know, those additional connections because it's going to open up another door.
It takes time. You build up a relationship over time. I've got a guy that I went there and I would go there maybe once a week or every 2 weeks and buy something, and I would pay full price. But every time I was there, I would go and talk to the owner of the company, and I would just, you know, shake his hand. Hey, how you doing? How's business? How's life? How are things going? And over a period of time, now when I walk in there, I get a 30% employee discount every time I walk into that store.
Nice. But you earned it. See, that's it. You gain that trust. You've earned that relationship. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it didn't happen. Yeah, for a while, I would go in there and pay full price for whatever I was buying. But while I was there, I would go up and talk to him and say, hey, how was your wife? How was your kids? How was your family? You know, it wasn't just about reselling. I would just go talk to him. Hey, how is business going? How are things going today? And I would just go out of my way to be nice and courteous and try to build up a rapport and build a relationship with this guy. And now every time I go there, anything in this store, it's a 110,000 square foot store. Anything in the store I want to buy is 30% off. And I just got on the phone with another guy, and he sells pallets. He gets whole truckloads of pallets of merchandise in. And I just got off the phone with him last night, and he's saying, hey, I've got 2 big pallets of merchandise coming in next week.
Wow.
That you might be interested in. I'm going to call you. First person that I'm going to call is you, and you can come check these pallets out before I show the general public. So anything that you want, you got first dibs on it.
But it didn't. I mean, I've been dealing with this guy for 3, 4, 5, 6 months. It didn't just happen overnight. That's what I'm saying.
Exactly. Yeah. You have to, and it's like some people go, well, like, isn't that conniving and this? I mean, it's just business. It's like if you don't build trust with somebody, you can't build a relationship. But it's not even so much that they can trust you. It's like, do they want to do business with you? Because you may be the most trustworthy guy, but if you're annoying as hell and there's a character flaw in you where you stick your foot in your mouth or something like that, it's like, well, it's like you said, like, can you just have the common courtesy to say, hey, how's your dog doing? I saw you had your dog last. Oh, he's in the vet, and this. Oh, tell me about it. What's going? People don't realize, but like if you just give them an ear, the next time you come and you don't show up, and they're like, oh, where'd Jeff go? Like, that's my guy, like, and then you come back and, hey, I missed you last week, then, you know what I mean? There's this attention. And in business, if you don't use your conscious attention, what's going to happen? People lose focus. You just happen to be out of sight. You're out of mind. You're there on a regular basis and you treat people with respect and just say, hey, listen, and you're showing them that, like, I have an interest in what I'm doing. If you want to do business with me, I'm here. I'll stand by and wait my turn. If that guy doesn't come back or that guy, mistreats you or something like that, I'm waiting in line. It's like anything else. You have a beautiful woman and she's got like 10 guys waiting to date her. You know what I mean? She can pick who she wants, but I'll tell you who she's going to pick. It's somebody that's trustworthy, somebody that's reliable, but most importantly, somebody that's going to give her attention, right? If you do that in business, I know it sounds like a lack of a better analogy.
No, I get it. I get it. Yeah, I was just saying that it takes time, but if you go out of your way and say, hey, man, I was thinking about you, or I just wanted to see how your wife, how your kids, how your family was doing, how are you holding up during the lockdown? Just strike up a conversation, and over a period of time, they're going to remember your name. You're going to, you're going to build up a relationship or build a rapport over a period of time. Maybe it's something small, like, hey, can I buy you a soda? Can I bring you some donuts? Can I get you a cup of coffee? Or I'll stop by and say, hey, is there anything I can help you with while I'm here? You need help with anything,
So as you're building this relationship, you realize Joe Schmo that you've been dealing with, like you said, for 6 months. All of a sudden you see he's cranky one day and you're like, what's up, Joe? Oh, I didn't get my coffee. Next time you come in, you better sure as hell have a cup of coffee in your hand. And like you said, butter him up with a donut too. He can't eat it because he's diabetic. Take the donut away. Give him a cup of coffee, because you're basically saying, hey, listen, I see what you're doing. You're like me. You're a human. You struggle. You probably got up this morning and had to come right to work. You know what I mean? But the whole thing about it is like, let me put it this way. I think I learned, and I don't want to kind of go out on a limb. Like, I don't like talking politics. I don't want to necessarily, go into religious rant or anything, but like my spirituality is become more integral in terms of like how I do business. And one is you be honorable, be respectful, be very mindful about how you treat people. Because I tell you what, it comes back, and not that I'm not one that's like, oh, I don't want to, I don't want to come back and haunt me. No, I just don't want to treat people disrespectfully, because I know that's not how I want to be treated. It really is just common sense, If you can't, like, I was talking to Derek in the chat and I was like, I'm just tired of dealing with dumb people. Ignorance is not a healthy dose of things. So if you put yourself in front of other people that are like really just, good natured and very mindful, and it's in like not prejudice in the way that like I got to do things my way and this and that. It's like, what are you going to learn? We're all here to learn something. And I hope every day I wake up, I go, give me something new to learn, Lord. Boom. And I put that positive affirmation in my head. I go, okay, so my spiritual community I hang out with, I didn't realize nobody talks about their jobs. We don't do that at this community. But I tell you what, I learned a lot by example, by watching people. And that's where I learned a lot of my business traits. And that's where I learned a lot of my business strategy, is just have a rapport with people, build it up. Like we just said a little while ago. How are you doing? How's your wife doing? Oh, I noticed, your kids are, they're going to college. It's great. Boom. And then all of a sudden they're like, what's going on? I'm busy this week. I need help doing this. I'm like, that's what I do. If you need help, here's my card. Reach out to me. I made so many connections. Like you said, you have to get supplemental income sometimes. You need cash flow as a reseller. I've gotten opportunities that way. And that's, and that's a joy. I mean, it's a blessing in disguise is what it is.
Yeah, it's nice when you're able to do that. I mean, I've went to a pawn shop a couple of times and they'll be like, "Hey, we've got merchandise in this back room. Let me pull it out and you can come check it out." You know, and I've got first dibs looking through this merchandise. But they know me. I come there once a week or every other week. They see me all the time. They know what I do. You know, so
Yes.
you're able to build it up over a period of time. Or now you have access to stuff in the back room that they're not even showing the general public. It's not even out on the display floor yet. But
Yeah.
Louis, yeah, you have a couple of things that you want to talk about. You want to plug your show again if people want to come check you out tomorrow?
Yeah, let me just remind everybody, come out. Tomorrow is Monday. Come to my channel at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My good friend Luis, Kelly Reseller Luis, he does a lot of auctions, but he's on YouTube. He's got great content. Most important, he's got a great personality. And he was gracious enough to accept, an invitation. I said, "You want to do this?" Because I think if we can just put this out there for other resellers and let's talk about mindful stuff, just what like you and I are talking about, Jeff, it's just really, I think, an ability to share knowledge. And if we can all do that, we can all learn and grow. But more importantly, like make connections. And I think if we keep our YouTube community a little tighter, not clicky, but too much, and it's like, yeah, we all gravitate. We have, some people get along better than others, and that's fine. But as long as we can all come in the same live chat and say hello and do that, I think it's great. So come on Monday. It's going to be similar like this. It's going to be a quick, short hour. My first guest is Emily Conway. She's superb, and she's so much fun. There is one other thing, if I can just drop it real quick, Jeff. Coming in next month, Nana Tink Treasures. Her name's Trish in real life. She's been one of the longest YouTube channels around. She and I are going to be doing a mini series in October, and it's about ephemera. And the first one's like ephemera, like what is ephemera? And then we're going to go down the line, and every like Sunday, it's Sunday. So pay attention on my channel, and we're going to put it out there, and we're going to go back and forth. I'll probably do it first on my channel, then hers, and back and forth. And we'll see if it's something that'll, carry on. But it's just something, a topic a lot of people, I'm not saying there isn't other channels out there. There are other guys that, and ladies that talk about ephemera, but we want to bring it back to the community and say, hey, listen, books are ephemera. You can learn from this. There's not just postcards, not just baseball cards and stuff like that. There's other aspects of ephemera that can make you money. And like, why would you want to pay attention to that? Well, there's a lot of collectors out there. And let me tell you, I've made a lot of money off of ephemera, just like dimes and pennies on the dollar for a stack of papers, and came out with like $1,000 worth of money.
All right, Louis. Well, hey, give me your final thoughts. If someone would, I'm going to drop your link down below so they can come check you out. Give me your final thoughts on things, Louis.
Wow, we talked about so much. Really, just it's there's so much I could say. The main thing is I think one thing you hit on the topic is like when you get down and lonely, don't get distracted on YouTube, but do use it. I think YouTube can be a really good treasure trove. Come here to learn, come here to share, but really, come here to make a significant and sincere connection. And somebody in the chat you don't know, always reach out and say hi. But I tell you what, like if you have something you want to know with other people, reach out, make the connections. I mean, since we're on a YouTube platform, why not talk about YouTube in that fashion? Like, I haven't had a chance, an opportunity up to today to really get to speak to you. I've known you, I've seen you all this time, but it's a really good pleasure when I see this is what I miss. I miss, I know because of the Corona stuff's going on, but it's like I really do miss like making connections like this. You're a good listener, and I've seen your chats in the past. You really ask good questions. So if we can all come here and learn something, ask yourself every day, what new things do I have to learn? If not, why are you here?
Yeah, I like coming on YouTube. Sometimes I'll play YouTube in the background and live chats, and I'll just be listing items in the background, and I just listen passively and try to learn things. Or if I have a question, I'll drop it in the chat. But it's good to be able to hang out with, to have a group of resources, a group of people that you can hang out with and interact with. So, anyways, we've been on the show for about an hour. I want to thank the Lone Star Picker for hanging out with me. I want to thank you guys in the chat for hanging out with me today. I'm going to drop Louis' link down below. Go check out his show. He's got a show coming on tomorrow on Monday. Thanks, guys. Thanks for hanging out.
Thank you so much, guys.